Welcome back to our weekly workshop. My name is Tyson Bailey. I'm the founder and CEO here at Trend Advisor, where we help life insurance and annuity-focused retirement planners land more high-value clients without spending any money on paid ads. Now, with the with the training that I want to walk through today, this is a compilation of a couple of case studies of wins that advisors have had over the last couple of weeks, and more than anything, I want to help you understand how marketing works at a foundational level. Because if I can help you do that, then it doesn't matter if you're using LinkedIn or Facebook or webinars or seminars, you like to sell in person or virtually, you can find the marketing strategy that's going to work best for you. Now, with us, our bread and butter when it comes to generating leads and prospects is on LinkedIn, is utilizing LinkedIn. Now, what I'll be walking through, it'll help you understand that LinkedIn is a very pivotal aspect of what we do. But when it all comes down to it, it's a very small element of the overall marketing picture. Now, when we talk about marketing, we want to make sure that you have a comprehensive strategy. Now, the way that a lot of marketing agencies out there will train, or that they'll not necessarily train, but what they'll have you focus on is one specific aspect or one specific element. So if you're on Facebook and you're going through your feed, you'll notice that you're going to get hit with ads, especially if you're like me and you start looking up or try to do research into what else is out there or what people are doing to market annuities or IULs or retirement planning or whatever, you will be hit with these ads. Now, with the ads, they typically come from this angle of like, hey, we've got like the one shiny object that is going to be the end all be all to your marketing problems or to your client acquisition problems, whether that's a script or an ad strategy or a VSL or a webinar or whatever it might be. But what that does is it gets you into this perspective of, hey, all I need is the right question to ask a prospect. I just need the right script, or I just need the right ad, or I need the right webinar or whatever. But if you want to have a client acquisition strategy that not only fills your pipeline on the front end, but then keeps it full over time, it's essential that you understand the different marketing foundations and principles that are involved. Now, one of the things that I've been diving into lately is a concept of the 3% rule that was popularized by a guy named Chet Holmes. Now, he wrote a book called The Ultimate Sales Machine. I'm going to be diving into that in a lot more detail, but one of the things that he covers is talking about where your leads and your prospects are at when you start working with them, or when you start helping them become aware that you exist, or your products or your solutions, whether it's advertising or email marketing or whatever it might be, right? Now, what he says, and where the 3% strategy comes into play, is that 3% of the people that you reach out to are going to be ready to buy. Now, I'm going to dive into these in a little bit more detail here in just a second. I'll walk through each stage, where it all fits in. But then I want to show you how on LinkedIn you can approach prospects where they're at, and it be a part of their journey to conversion. Not just rely on one single interaction or hope somebody's going to come through or hope you catch them at the right time, but really focus on both the short-term and the long-term win. So 3% of these people are ready to buy, 7% are open to buying but not actively looking, 30% are not thinking about buying, 30% think they aren't interested, 30% know they aren't interested. So when I break down these numbers in, you can mix and match them a number of different ways. But if you look at the top 90% right here, these are people that are not actively looking. They're not actively thinking about the problems that you can solve. It's just that there's no recognition, right? They don't recognize the pain point. They don't understand that there are solutions out there. So these folks, while it is the vast majority of people that you're going to contact, it's going to take some time. Now, going down a little bit deeper into the 7 and the 3%, 3%, this is somebody who recognizes their pain point, especially in the retirement planning space. They recognize that something needs to change. There's something that keeps them up at night. There's a problem in their life that they need to implement a fix for. Now, when we go and approach these people, when we're talking about the marketing strategies that are out there, and I see this a lot on the LinkedIn side, where what people are doing with LinkedIn isn't necessarily wrong, but it's incomplete because they're solely hoping that they catch somebody in this 3% category who is ready to take action, where their financial pain point is so strong that they're ready to move forward right away. When in reality, 97% of the people that you contact are not going to be there. They're just not, whether it's a recognition problem or a pain point problem, whatever it might be, they're just not going to take action. Now, for the 7% that are open to buying but not actively looking, this is also what I would consider a warm prospect. This is somebody who they recognize the pain points. They recognize that something needs to change, but the urgency is just not there. They're not actively going out and researching, how do I fix this problem? How do I stop this thing that's keeping me up at night? How do I alleviate that problem? Okay. Now, diving into these a little bit deeper, 3%, we already covered this. These are people who are actively searching for a solution. Now, a good example of this was we're doing the LinkedIn marketing for one of our advisors. He's 89 years old. And we went out on LinkedIn, we sent a message, okay? We always focus on these value-based, relationship-centric offers that entice people to take action if they're ready to take action, okay? And I'll talk about that here after I go through these different categories. But essentially, we sent this prospect a value-based offer, again, focusing heavily on relationships, but still centered around what the advisor can do for this prospect. Now, this guy messaged back to the advisor and he's like, hey, I was on a webinar yesterday with Ed Slott, and he was talking about, taxes going up, and he was talking about LERPs, and he was talking about IULs, and he's like, man, I really want to get a LERP. Do you do LERPs? Can I do a LERP with you? He was using the acronym of a LERP, right? Which is a huge green flag that this guy knew his pain point. He had already been doing his research, and now he knows the solution that he wants to get. There's the desire is there, the interest is there, and he's ready to take action. This guy is a 3%er, right? So we want to be able to cater to these people. We want to be able to attract and capture the interest of these people while not burning bridges with the other 97%. Now, the 7%, this is a group of individuals that are willing to buy if they're presented with a compelling offer, but they're not actively seeking a solution. So again, they recognize the pain point, they recognize that something needs to change, but the way that I envision it and the way that I interpret this is there's no urgency. There's no urgency in, hey, I got to get the planning done today. So still a great prospect, still a warm prospect, but you got to be able to implement the right mechanisms to create that urgency and get them to take action with you. Now, 30% not thinking about buying. So these individuals haven't considered the need for your product or services yet. They might be open to learning more, but aren't motivated to take action immediately. So these individuals, this is where the urgency is not there and the pain point may or may not be there, okay? So they're looking at that, and the way that I envision this is if they're looking at their retirement plans, they're looking at, what they're currently doing, the trajectory that they're on, but they don't recognize what needs to change or why it needs to change. So these individuals, you have to be able to help them uncover the pain point and then agitate the pain point enough to where you've got they recognize the need, but then that you start creating that urgency as well. Now, 30% think they aren't interested. So this group believes they don't need your offering either due to misconceptions or a lack of perceived relevance, okay? Now, these individuals, they think everything's fine, right? They're going through, they look at their nest egg and like, yeah, I'm on the right trajectory. I'm doing the right things. They say that I need to invest in my 401k, or they say that I need to do X, Y, and Z, and I'm doing X, Y, and Z. So nothing really needs to change, right? There's no motivation to take any sort of action at all. Again, I'm going to show you a great example of this of a prospect who fell right into this category. And it doesn't mean they're dead. It doesn't mean they're qualified. They're just not ready yet. Okay. Now, these are the 30% that this is the last stage, or the ones that are the individuals you reach out to who are very unlikely to buy. Okay. Highly unlikely to buy. And the reason for that is that they're either completely satisfied with whoever your competition is, or they're just not in your target market, right? So these are the individuals that, while they still may eventually be a good prospect, may eventually be a good client, they're just not, there's no motivation to take action. There's no need or reason to give you the time of the day. These are the individuals that deserve the lowest amount of attention for you. Now, again, it does not mean they're dead. It does not mean they're qualified. But if they're sitting in this category, it's going to take a lot more momentum. It's going to take a lot more motivation to get them to take any sort of action, okay? Now, going back to how this all applies when it comes to a comprehensive marketing strategy or client acquisition strategy. When we're going out on the LinkedIn side, and I'm going to walk you through how exactly we do this. We had one of our advisors over the last, this is last week where we were talking about all this. This advisor landed 3 new clients, okay? Now, when we go out on the LinkedIn side, what we're doing is it's a combination of connection requests and messages and value-based offers. There are a number of different elements and mechanisms that we're putting into place, a mix between automation and manual outreach on behalf of the advisor. But in 1 week, 3 new clients were able to come through with their first strategy session, okay? Now, for me, where I really start to nerd out on the marketing side and where I start to really get really deep into the weeds and granular with the data is I like to see where these people came from, how long it took them from the first interaction with the advisor to the time that they booked a strategy session with the advisor, and then what was the mechanism that got them to book the appointment. Okay. Now, with Maximo here, Maximo booked his first strategy session with the advisor after being connected with the advisor on LinkedIn for just 1 week. So we were able to go through or go into LinkedIn for the advisor, connect with this individual. The guy came through, accepted the connection request. And with this value-based offer that we were able to put out in front of there, he took action on that. He booked a strategy session right away. It was a very, very quick process. Okay. Now, Mike booked a meeting after being connected with the advisor for about 6 months. Okay. Now, with this guy, and I'll give you a breakdown of the meetings here in just a second, but this was somebody who, again, connected on LinkedIn and was kind of passive, right? He's kind of sitting in the background a little bit. He's checking out what the advisor offers. He's looking at stuff. He's contemplating. This guy, I would typically put into, I would say maybe the first 7 or the first 30. So I'd put him right about here. Okay. So he's thinking about, or not thinking about buying, but he's slightly interested. He knows somewhat of what his financial pain points are, or he's open to buying, but he's just not looking right now. Okay. Now, with this last guy that I want to touch on is David. This is where I get super excited because I want to know that what we're doing for our advisors is actually producing results. It's actually paying off dividends, right? Now, you'll typically hear me in other trainings and other webinars that we've done. I'll talk about low interest and high interest prospects. The goal of a comprehensive marketing strategy or client acquisition system is to be able to capture high interest prospects and then also create high interest prospects. So going back into the 3% rule, just because somebody's not actively ready to buy or looking to buy right in that moment, it doesn't mean they're dead or not qualified or that they're not worth your time or attention. It just means that they need a little bit more hand-holding. Now, what I loved about all 3 of these meetings, okay? So these first 2 right here, this this was with Maximo and Mike, okay? Now, when Maximo and Mike met with the advisor, they were very open, very vulnerable. Now, the advisor said that both men ended up crying in the meeting. I love that, not from the aspect of them being in financial pain or opening up about, what's going on in their lives or things like that, but I love that they felt comfortable enough with the advisor to open up. Now, in today's world with AI and technology and automation and all this kind of stuff, there's a lot of people out there who are trying to over-engineer the process to create as much efficiency as possible. Now, I love AI. AI is not a bad thing, but don't forget that when it comes to high-value clients, high-value prospects, there has to be a relationship element involved in order to get these individuals to move forward with you, in order to get them to move multiple 5, multiple 6, multiple 7 figures of their hard-earned money over to you. AI cannot replace that. AI can go out and it can speed up the process. It can supercharge the process. There are great ways to be able to involve that, to be able to create efficiency, but don't try to over-engineer the efficiency to the point where you remove all human element, to the point where you forget that relationships still apply. One of I mentioned him earlier, Bob up in Seattle, 89 years old, absolutely knocking it out of the park right now with our systems. But it's not because it's not because of the automation. It's not because we've figured out some fancy ad or some fancy question to get these people to move forward. It's that Bob is amazing, probably the best I've ever seen at creating relationships with prospects and leads. And he's able to leverage those relationships to be able to get people to take action. Now, with David is a very interesting story. So remember, David connected on LinkedIn over 3 years ago. Now, with David, I was able to go through and take a look at his journey before meeting with the advisor. Now, what I love, first off, is that David is worth $8 million, okay? So a high value client. But when David first booked his strategy session with the advisor, he came through. And what I love to see on here is that we include this little element of please share anything that will help prepare for our meeting. Another thing that we have is what is your number one financial concern that I can help with? Just things to give the advisor a basis or a foundation on which to start the conversation. Hey, where are you at? What are you looking to accomplish, right? Now, David, having been connected with the advisor for over 3 years, and I'll dive into this in a second because it's really exciting from my perspective on the marketing side, but very, very powerful case study, okay? So David comes through. He says, your number one financial concern, building and keeping wealth during my retirement. Awesome, right? Great goal. Now, or great concern to be able to address. Now, please share anything that will help prepare for our meeting. So here's what I like. I'm a retired fire battalion chief with a pension. I've been saving and investing all of my adult life. My wife and I have above average retirement savings, but I need to ensure it will continue to grow and build. I also need to ensure the maximum is passed to my two young daughters. We have income from investments, rental property, and my pension. All right. Now, from my side, I want to do a little bit more digging. Okay. And I wanted to see, okay, what did David see? What did he get? What was his journey? What elements contributed to him eventually crossing the first finish line? Right now, the case isn't closed. There's still a lot of work to be done by the advisor, and that's where we get into sales frameworks and things like that. But what was his journey from the marketing side to be able to get him to want to move forward with the advisor? What did he see? What was he interested in? What did he click on? So over the course of over 3 years, at the time he booked his meeting, David had been sent 97 follow-up emails, 97 nurturing emails, 97 education emails, 97 emails with calls to actions inside of them, right? And he opened 100% of those, which is incredible. Now, I would not expect all of your prospects and leads to open 100% of your emails. But just to reiterate or to emphasize this point is that when you send out content, it has to be valuable. Now, if the advisor was sending out watered down content, watered down stock updates, or watered down whatever, how would that have affected the relationship building in this process? Would David have been more turned on to work with the advisor? Or if the content is watered down, would that have turned him off? But this is the importance of making sure that you're sending out valuable, educational, nurturing, relationship-centric content every single step along the way. So with this individual, I reached out and I wanted some more details. Okay. So I asked the advisor, did David mention what prompted him to finally reach out and schedule a call by any chance? Also, tell me about the other meetings, right? So really excited to hear about this. Now, David said he opens everything in quotes I send. So we send it out on behalf of the advisor and has never had a financial advisor and has thought he's done well for himself. But some of the topics provoked him to think maybe he doesn't know what he doesn't know. Okay. Love this. Absolutely love this. So we have a do-it-yourself kind of guy. Thinks he's good, thinks he's in great shape, which he may be, right? I don't know his financial picture, but it was the consistent educational content that was out there that got him to finally reach out, that triggered something in his mind that, hey, I might need this. So going back to the 3% rule, don't forget this, okay? Never had a financial advisor. He's done well for himself, but some of the topics that he was sent provoked him to think he maybe doesn't know everything, okay? So going back to the 3%, right? So right here, we have somebody who obviously is in this second 30% category right here. Think they aren't interested, okay? So let's go to that. This group believes they don't need your offering, either due to misconceptions or a lack of perceived relevance. So David, going through his journey, okay? Let's analyze this just a little bit. So David was sent 97 follow-up emails, opened 100% of those. So while he was sitting there thinking, hey, I got this. I got a handle on this. I don't think I'm interested in this. I've got this. I can do it myself, right? It was through the relationship and educational nurturing that got him to understand that, hey, maybe I don't know what I don't know. Now, it'll be interesting going and monitoring the sales journey with this. So we're already talking about the marketing journey. Now let's go through the sales journey. It'll be really interesting as the sales journey progresses to see what his hot buttons are, right? Now, we know from what he booked on the calendar. So he says his number one financial concern, building and keeping wealth during retirement. Okay. Now, from here, what I also love about this, so inside of the details that he gives the advisor when he booked the meeting, okay, is I need to ensure it will continue to grow and build. Got it. I also need to ensure the maximum is passed to my two young daughters, right? Now, all of a sudden, this is where it gets really interesting, where I want to monitor the sales journey and circle back with you guys, is now we have both a retirement concern and a legacy concern. Now, we're talking about life insurance and everything that it can do, or annuities or whatever. Even if you're a securities license, this applies to you as well. We work with a number of individuals who are securities licensed. Now we know how we can start addressing this individual. So when we're going out on the LinkedIn side, I want to walk you guys through I'm an open book when it comes to the marketing process and what we do for advisors, because I know that nobody can replicate what we do, right? There's very few individuals who can get close. I've seen a number of competitors who have started to adopt certain strategies or whatever that we have, but we are really good at what we do, okay? Now, when we're going through on the marketing side, this is a very high level overview or walkthrough of what our flagship system looks like for agents and advisors, retirement planners that we work with, okay? Now, where I mentioned the our bread and butter on the lead generation side, it starts on LinkedIn. So everything you're seeing with these first four icons right here, this is the LinkedIn side, okay? Again, very small element of the overall client acquisition system, but a very important part of the process, right? It doesn't matter how good your backend system is, your funnels, your offers, or whatever. If you don't have a lead source that you're constantly getting new leads from, it doesn't matter how good the back end is. It doesn't matter how good you are at sales, or how many fancy calculators or software or reports or whatever that you have on the back end. If you don't have leads, it doesn't matter, okay? So what we're doing on the LinkedIn side is we go out on behalf of the advisor, and we are constantly searching out, targeting, and attracting whoever the ideal avatar is, okay? On LinkedIn, we're looking for a quality versus quantity sort of play. So we want to make sure that we're going after what I call high value clients, somebody that either has a lot of money or is making a lot of money. So let me break that down even further. We're looking for, somebody who's a successful business owner, somebody who is a successful high income earning professional, which ultimately leads into the high net worth category. Now, from that side, sending out connection requests, getting these people to digitally shake your hand, accept that connection request. That's the first step in this process, okay? But now from here, we need to make sure, let me pull that graphic back on the screen, okay? We need to make sure throughout this process that we are taking into account every single stage of the 3% rule, okay? So understanding that 3% of the individuals that we contact are in that ready to buy stage, okay? Now, this could be somebody who's like ready to sign in a week or 2 weeks, or somebody that's gonna, they're gonna meet with you in a week or 2 weeks, and then may take 2 months to close. But that's who we want to go after first, is somebody who is ready to take action. Now, that being said, when I referenced earlier that most LinkedIn strategies aren't wrong, they're just incomplete, this is where a lot of agents and advisors mess up. Because when they're going out there with that first offer or that first message to somebody after they connect, this is where they're saying, hey, hey, I do retirement income planning, or I can help you retire tax-free. Schedule a time here to meet with me, right? They're just all of a sudden they're spraying it and praying a message out to their audience to the point where it's sink or swim, right? Now, that being said, if you've done that in the past, it doesn't mean that you can't go back out. You can't retouch these individuals or offer a better offering or value-based offer to be able to get them to move forward. It just means that interaction most likely won't go anywhere or hasn't gone anywhere if you've tried it in the past, okay? So I either see somebody spraying and praying that sales message of, hey, I can help you retire tax-free, or I can help you guarantee income for life, or whatever, right? Now, the second message that I see out there a lot is what I call a Trojan horse message. Now, this is a default of a lot of individuals and professionals because it comes across less salesy than what I mentioned previously of, hey, I can help you retire tax-free or whatever. But this Trojan horse message is, hey, let's hop on a 15-minute virtual coffee chat. Hey, I love growing my network. I love connecting with folks. Let's hop on a 15-minute intro call and we can learn more about each other, right? Now, while you'll get individuals to take you up on that sort of an approach or that sort of messaging strategy, more often than if you're just spraying and praying a sales message, what happens is there's no purpose to that call. So if somebody is a busy business owner, a high income earning professional, they most likely have 30 to 50 other things on their plate that they've got to do that day, other than book a 15-minute call with somebody that they don't know and that they just met on LinkedIn, right? Now, additionally, if somebody does book that call, even if they don't know the purpose of it, now all of a sudden the burden and the pressure on you is to somehow shift that conversation into centering around what you do or the solutions you provide. Now, while that can come about naturally in the conversation of, hey, what do you do, Mr. Business Owner? Hey, here's what I do, Mr. Business Owner. Would you be interested in exploring more? There's a combination or approach of, you got to be efficient, but you want to maximize your time and effort in the marketing process, okay? So what I would rather do is I would rather attract people to you and get people to book meetings with you who know exactly who you are, what you do, and what you have to offer. Now, in order to do that, that's where we position our first value-based offer on the LinkedIn side to every single one of your connections. Now, this value-based offer, there's several subtle nuances that are involved inside of here, okay? But essentially, this value-based offer has to be something that your prospect perceives as valuable, whether they work with you or not, okay? Now, the most valuable thing that you have is information. You have the solutions that will alleviate the financial pain points that your prospects are dealing with on a daily basis, okay? So with that, something else you have to take into account too. If you're going out there spraying and praying a sales message, while you may be able to capture somebody who's in that 3% category, what if somebody's in the 30% category of not thinking about buying, or the 30% category of they think they are interested, right? We just showed with David that he's a great prospect, right? A great client coming through worth $8 million. If you are not taking into account the other 97% of the individuals that you're going to contact on LinkedIn, you're going to find yourself in a situation where you're getting a lot of ups and downs in your pipeline. Hey, you may have a good week where 2 people come through and they want to meet with you, but then you go dry for 3 weeks, right? And then you find another person, but then you go dry, right? It's this constant up and down. And that's where I talk about the marketing roller coaster in our other trainings. And so what we want to do is engineer this system or this client acquisition process to cater to both individuals, okay? Cater to somebody who is that high interest, high intent prospect, but also that person who is a low interest, low intent prospect, right? Doesn't mean the low interest is dead, but this is where we get into that whole conversation about capturing high interest prospects and creating high interest prospects. So what we're going to do is we're going to find some sort of value-based offer that centers around what you do, the solutions you provide, that your audience is going to find valuable. Your ideal prospect is going to find valuable, whether they work with you or not. Now, this can be books, webinars, checklists, guides, white papers, reports. The list goes on and on. Now, we've through years of data and testing, we've figured out the top converting offers on that side and the subcategories of the top converting offers on that side. And we can touch on that in another training. But essentially, what we want to do is use this value-based offer as a way to attract our ideal avatars who are in the 3%, 7%, 30% of not thinking about buying. We want to start attracting those people off of LinkedIn and get them into your ecosystem, into their environment. Now, if this offer is valuable enough, and it is perceived as valuable enough by our prospects, then we're going to get them to be able to opt in, which means they're giving us their contact information. They're giving us the information that we're asking for, but essentially getting them to digitally raise their hand to say, hey, this is applicable to me. This is interesting to me. This is valuable enough to me in my mind that I'm willing to part with my valuable contact information. Okay. This is the first step in not just getting leads, but getting engaged leads. Now, from that side, if somebody's in that 3% category where they're ready to buy, they're ready to take action, we want to make sure that it is abundantly clear what the next step is that they can take if they are ready. Not the next step that they have to take, whether they're ready or not, in order to get that information or to get that valuable offer that you gave them. But if they're ready, here's exactly what they need to do, which for most advisors, most of the individuals that we work with, is booking a meeting with you, right? Booking a formal meeting where they can have a strategy session. Going back over to the individuals that we're covering on this side, where we had Maximo, we had Mike, and we had David. Maximo is one of those 3%ers, okay? Now, one of the things that I've seen, one of the cardinal sins that I've seen agents, advisors, retirement planners commit on the marketing side is, even if they have a valuable offer, as soon as somebody requests that information or requests that offer, they just send them to a confirmation page that says, hey, check your email, or hey, give me a call if you're interested, or hey, whatever it is, right? They're not giving them that next step. Your conversion rates are going to increase dramatically if you give them that next step that they can take right there in front of them. A confused mind always says no. So if you're sending somebody a digital guide or a PDF and somebody has to click out of that PDF, let's say they get excited, they click out of that PDF, now they got to go find your email, now they got to go find your website, now they got to figure out how to book a meeting with you. You've created too many hurdles in the process to where most of those individuals, even if they're excited and ready to take action, they're just going to drop off. They're going to say, oh, I'm busy now, I'll do it later, or whatever it might be. They're just not going to convert right in that moment, even if you got them excited enough to where they would have converted if the right structure was in place, okay? Now, from there, we want to make sure, again, going back to the different categories, right? Going back to somebody who's in, let's go back up to the top over here, okay? To this graphic. Now, taking into account that some of these individuals are just not going to be ready right in that moment, or the majority of those individuals are not going to be ready right in that moment. Okay. We need to make sure that we address these individuals, or that we make sure to take those individuals into account when we are going out and we're doing the outbound marketing process. Okay. So, so what we want to do, number one, is when I'm talking about making a value-based offer on the LinkedIn side, if this is truly valuable, again, perceived as valuable by your leads, by your connections, something that you are offering them, whether they work with you or not, this is a way that you can still have a touch point to attract the right people without burning bridges along the way. So if you are going out and you are spraying and praying a sales message, you may be burning bridges in the process because you're being too forward, too fast, and it comes across as spammy, to where it's like, yeah, I'm not going to work with this person. So let's say they're ready to move forward in a year. They're not thinking about you, right? They don't even know you exist anymore. But if we do this the right way, we're going to be able to handhold every single one of these connections and leads throughout their marketing journey. So in order to make that happen, what we do is when we send a connection, or we send a message with that offer on the LinkedIn side, what we're also going to do in the process is we're going to go through and we're going to send that person an email reiterating that value-based offer. Now, this is where you have to be extremely careful. And again, going into some of the subtle nuances inside of marketing in general, with this email, you do not want to be placed in a category as somebody that's just a cold email spammer. Okay. Again, this is where a lot of people mess up, because they're going to go out and they're going to say, hey, I found you on LinkedIn. Looks like you're doing great things. Here's what I do, right? Here's what I do. Here's how I can help you, right? In this first email, the first series of emails, we want to be extremely value-based. You just want to flood these individuals with valuable information, valuable content, valuable giveaways. So that way they don't see you as just a cold email salesman, right? You're not just a spammer, right? So in addition to just drenching them in value, one of the best things that you can do in this first email that you send to somebody off of LinkedIn is that you reiterate the message that you sent them on LinkedIn. Hey, I don't know if you saw this on LinkedIn. I sent you a message. I know those get lost in the shuffle, but I'm currently offering this valuable offer to my connections, to my network. And I wanted to make sure that you saw it. If you're interested, click here or let me know, whatever it is, right? But that is a great way to be able to, number one, get them used to hearing from you via email, but to also make sure that you're not bottlenecking the process just on the LinkedIn side. Okay. Again, these individuals that we're going to be going after, these high value prospects and clients, these guys are most likely really busy. Okay. So we want to make sure that even if they're busy, even if they're not logging into LinkedIn on a daily basis, even if they saw your message on LinkedIn and got busy and had to go run off and do something else. This happened to me a couple weeks ago. I was going through having a conversation with an advisor on LinkedIn, and I'm sitting, this is like 6 o'clock at night. I've got 3 young kids. And so, I'm messaging this person on LinkedIn. All of a sudden, kids start crying. Something happens, right? I've just got to go and I've got to take care of that, right? So I exit out of the message, even though it was a great conversation, even though there was a lot of dialogue going back and forth, I had to exit out. Now, because I live in LinkedIn day in and day out, I knew the next day to be able to go back into LinkedIn, pick up the conversation where we were at. Your high value clients and high value prospects, they're not going to be like me, most likely, right? They're going to get busy, log out of LinkedIn, and forget to check it for weeks. Okay. But if we are going and we are making sure that we are touching them via another communication channel, then we ensure that even if they got busy, hey, we're most likely not going to lose that person or lose that opportunity, because we are touching them in different ways, right? We are making sure that, yes, if they go back into LinkedIn, they can find your message, but we don't want to just hope that they find the message. So we're going to ensure that we are also getting in front of them via another channel as well. Now, this is where we dived into that last step of David in particular, right? $8 million client who connected with the advisor 3 years ago and now finally booked his first meeting. Okay. When you go through on the LinkedIn side and you start generating these leads, you need to make sure that you have a process or a system in place to stay on top of these individuals, to stay top of mind. Again, when I start talking about ongoing email marketing or ongoing email nurturing, a lot of advisors clam up and they're like, if they don't take action with me in the first, couple steps or couple touch points or whatever, I don't want to be annoying. I don't want to be spammy. Now, what I highly recommend is that if that's you, if you have those thoughts, don't be annoying. don't be spammy, right? One of the best things that you can do with your marketing approach is to give away the secrets, sell the implementation. So as you're doing your ongoing email marketing, ongoing nurturing, ongoing campaigns, come from a place of value. Really focus on building these relationships. Make sure that you're giving these people valuable content, valuable information, actionable steps that they can take in order to better complete their excuse me, their financial picture. Now, for our advisors, what we do is we automate the majority of this process. So that way, the advisor doesn't have to worry about the next campaign or the next email or the next thing that's going out, because it's being taken care of in the background 24/7, whether they're working with clients, following up with leads, laying on the beach, they're on vacation. It doesn't matter. The marketing is happening for them in the background. Now, the last thing that I want to touch on, this goes for everybody, whether you're working with us or not, is that there's a fine line or a fine there's an optimal way to be able to utilize automated nurturing and automated marketing, but then timely manual marketing as well. Now, as of the time of this recording of this workshop, this is the day after the election, okay? Now, leading up to the election, all eyes, the majority of eyes, like unless you're living under a rock, everybody knows that the election is happening. Everybody's watching to see what's going to happen. Now, with the election in particular, one of the things that you could bring into the picture is talking about legislative risk in retirement planning, okay? What happens if Trump wins? What happens if Kamala wins? What happens, what's going to happen, right? Everybody's thinking about it. Everybody's looking at it, but there's a way to leverage where somebody's attention is currently at and to use that to your advantage, and not a sleazy way, but to be able to capitalize on their current interest and shift it in your direction to talk about how you can solve this pain point for them, okay? Now, whether it's the election, whether it's something else timely that's happening, whether it's, the end of the year coming up, or you're right into the beginning of the new year and people are focused on finances and financial goals or whatever it might be, the timely marketing and communication that you send out there can be a huge boost to your campaign. So with that, yes, keep the automation going out there. Keep everything in the system that is automated. Keep it going, right? Do not stop it, because that ensures that no matter what you're doing, whether you're busy or whatever, that is going out no matter what. But then as you have time, which I guarantee you will have time, this is where when we go through and we start sending out these emails to all the connections on LinkedIn after they connected with you, reiterating that value-based offer. Now, what that creates is an extremely valuable email list, a very refined email list of your ideal audience, your target market, that now you have that valuable email list that you can use however you need to or whenever you need to. So whether that's a timely communication piece that needs to go out, whether the market's just dropped, or whether taxes are going to go up, or whether something happened politically or economically or whatever, now you can go in and you can send out that timely marketing to your to your audience, be able to leverage where their attention is at and be able to shift that in your direction, okay? That also applies to if you're doing other initiatives besides just the LinkedIn marketing, okay? Let's say that you have time or the desire to do a live event like a webinar or a seminar, things like that. Well, now all of a sudden you have a valuable email list that of your target market, your ideal leads, that you can now go out and invite to that seminar, to that webinar. That is something that a lot of our very successful advisors have done, is now instead of having to go out and send out direct mail pieces or whatever to a cold audience for the first time, or pay for Facebook ads to be able to try to get new leads to come and get interested in your webinar or seminar. Now you've got a list of people who have been hearing from you on a periodic basis. You've been delivering that valuable content, that educational content, that nurturing content. These individuals, through that valuable relationship-centric content, will start to develop a relationship with you. Now, as you have something that's timely, that creates a sense of urgency, whether it's a webinar or a seminar or something in between, now you've created a choke point to where individuals who are getting closer to the finish line, now all of a sudden they have a reason to show up with you at a certain time, a certain place, to where they will be able to get additional value out of that seminar or webinar. Now, those are excellent conversion pieces to be able to get somebody, again, to drive that urgency, and to be able to get them to really see you in action, be able to see you as the expert you are, the authority figure you are, the information source that you are, So I highly encourage you to be able to create your client acquisition system. So again, just to recap, you're addressing the 3% that are ready to buy, but you're not you're not forgetting about or burning bridges with the other 97%. Okay. Now, if you've got questions about, our systems, if you've got questions about what we might be able to do for you specifically, go ahead and reach out. My calendar is at chatwithtyson.com. You and I can hop on a strategy session. I'm an open book. I'm happy to peel back the curtain, dive deep into the weeds with you to be able to show you either what we're doing or to talk about what you can do personally to maximize your success with your client acquisition strategies. So that being said, I appreciate y'all, and I'll talk to you soon.